Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today, Masechtas Bava Metzia daf Pei Daled. We're going to begin on Pei Daled Amud Aleph, the fourth line from the top. We were learning the fascinating story of Rav Shimon ben Elazar, the son of the Rabbi, or Rav Shimon ben Yochai. We're up to Ki Havi Mikli Rabbi Shmuel Rav Yosi, Rabbi Elazar Rav Shimon Bahadi Adadi. When these great sages would encounter one another, Havi Ayil Bikra de Toiri Benaihu, they would be able to put this ox literally between their stomachs. It says Rashi, Bein Shinehen Mitachas Karesan, between their stomachs, Mitach Karesan Gadoil, because they had such large stomachs. Havi Nagabahu, and it would not touch. Basically, it's just demonstrating that these are enormously heavy men. So Amruhu Ahi Matronisa, in a disrespectful manner, this Nachrius woman said, B'nechem einam shalachem, your children cannot possibly be yours, as Rashi, She'enechem yuchayim lehizakik l'nishaysechem. There's no way you would be able to have an intimate relationship with your wives, so therefore there's no way that your wives who were pregnant and had children, that you were the father. Now, of course, this is total disrespect, and on this, the Gemara says, Amru law, so they said to her, Shalahen gadam mishalanu, that our wives' stomachs are actually bigger than ours. Kol shekain ikadiyarmi hachi, certainly you could say such a thing. So Amru law, so they said to her, based on the pasuk in Shoftim, Ki kaish gavurasai, just like a person in his strength, this is what he said. They said to her, that even if you have a lot of fat and you're big, but love can push away the basar, which one could again just understand this, that on a physical level, that people, even though are extremely heavy, but they could still have relations even though they're quite heavy. Homiletically, you find people that unfortunately don't really have such a deep relationship with their spouse, especially as they age. It's possible you can get heavier. So ohava daichekas as a basar. If you have love, that should be daichek. The fact that a person is a little bit heavy, that shouldn't be the reason that you should be focused on. Basar should not push off love. Love should push off a person who's a little bit overweight, gained a few pounds. Of course, that's not the simple reading of those words. The question is, why did they even have to respond to this? That you don't have to respond to a fool. This is a foolish statement. Why would they even have to answer her? Just ignore it. Because the reality is that she starts speaking all these terrible rumors. All of a sudden, people may actually believe it. As horrible of a lie it is. And in fact, Tosfos over here says that El Devar Nichtavu Shul Haitzilaz Bnei Adam Shehem Kach. So, in that fact, this is the reason why the Gemara even mentions this, so that no one should have such a thought process. I'm Rav Yochanan. Rav Yochanan, who is a Baal Basar, said, Avery Rabbi Shmuel Rav Yosi, the limbs of Rabbi Shmuel Rav Yosi is kachemus, is just like this barrel, this jug, bas teisha kabin, which holds 9 kav, he's a large man. Omar Papa, Avery Rabbi Yochanan, he said regarding Rav Yochanan, who's a Baal Basar, his limbs were kachemus bas chameshes kabin. Maybe not as big, but still pretty big. If we look in Rashi over here, ki ish guvurasai, aver tashmish. That's actually, that pasuk is referring to the aver of tashmish. Lashon acher she lahen gadol taiva shel ish meruba mishel ish. Okay, fine. So, weiter. V'yarmula bas shloishes kab and 3 kab. Rav Papa Goofy, Rav Papa himself. So Rav Papa was commenting on Rav Yochanan. Rav Papa himself is ki dekuri de harpanoi. It's just like these baskets, which Rashi says salam shaisin beharpanoi, which apparently is some location. These large baskets. Rav Yochanan na ishtari mishapiri shalayim. I'm one of the leftover of the most beautiful and radiant people and faces of all of Yerushalayim. So he was speaking about how beautiful he was. So hi, man de boya mechsi shufri de Rabbi Yochanan. If someone would want to see the shine of Rabbi Yochanan's face, nesi kasta de kaspa, they should take a silver cup. Mebeit silke, says Rashi, kishiyoitz mebeisa uman. When you leave a craftsman's house, shoot sahoiv, which is shining, mimari lahav ha'esh, because of the fire, v'nemale partsidya, and you should fill up Rashi's garin seeds, de rumana sumka, and v'nehedele kalila de arvada, and go after these red rose petals, sumka lapume, v'noisve ben shimsha latul, and put it between the sun and the shade. Anyway, so this apparently would be some type of way of being able to ascertain the great shine and beauty of Rabbi Yochanan. Hahu zaharure, then that shine is only me'ein shufar Rabbi Yochanan. It's not even the shine of Rabbi Yochanan's face; it's close to it. Eini v'yamar shufar Rav Kahana, the beautiful face of Rav Kahana was me'ein shufar Rav Avoy. It was only comparable to the greatness of Rav Avo. Shafar Rav Avo. Rav Avo's face was only me'ein shufar de Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu had a great shine. However, shufar de Yaakov Avinu me'ein shufar de Adam Rishon. Adam Rishon had the most beautiful radiance. The Rav Yochanan lo kachashuvle. Rav Yochanan is not mentioned here at all. So how can we say that he was so radiant? The reason why he's not included is Shana Rav Yochanan de hadras panim lo havile. Rav Yochanan didn't have a lengthy beard, Rashi zakan, as Yaakov Avinu and Adam Rishon had. Okay, so therefore he wasn't included in this list. Apparently, a nice beard creates radiance in a man. Rav Yochanan Havi Ozel v'Yosef Ashar Tefillah. This is a famous Gemara in Brachos. He used to sit by the mikvah. Armi said, Ki salken b'nais Yisrael mitfilas mitzvah. When women come out from the mikvah to go back to their husbands, lifgubi, they'll encounter me. Ki hechel havilhu b'nei shapiri kavasi, that they should have children as beautiful as me. Let them see how, look at me and they'll have children as beautiful as me. Gemiri. Oraisa kavasi. Maybe they'll learn and they'll have Torah knowledge just like me. Some Rabbanan, Lumastafi Mar Me'edad Bisha, understand, aren't you afraid of an ayin hara? They're going to be staring at you like this. So Amar Lahu Anna Mizardi Yosef Kasina. I, Rabbi Yochanan, come, I descend from Yosef Hatzadik. Do Shalta Be'ena. Bisha, he had no connection to the ayin hara. Ayin hara could not control him. Dechsiv, Ben Paras Yosef, Ben Paras Ali Ayin. Yamar Bava, Atikri Ali Ayin, Ela Oili Ayin. That he was above the eye. Rav Yosi Bar Chanina Amar Mahacha from the pasuk V'yidgol Roi B'Kerev Aretz, comparable to the fish in the sea. Ma Dagim Shibiyam, just like the fish in the sea. My Machasin, ice and water covers the main Hayin Shalatas Behen, and the eye doesn't have any control. Avzar Shal Yosef in Hayin Shalatas Behen. So therefore, Rav Yochanan was basically untouchable. Okay. Question 3. So we saw from these psukim either ben oli ayin or just like the fish in the sea. That was question 3. So this is Rav Yochanan. The Gemara continues with a story that Yom Echad, one day, Havi Kasachi Rav Yochanan biyardina. So Rav Yochanan was in the water and he was swimming. Chazi Reish Lakish, so he was able to look at this great person, Reish Lakish, Vishavor Luyarda Basrei, and he jumped into the river after him. So Amalei, so he noticed this great man's strength, he was able to jump so far. So Rav Yochanan said to Reish Lakish, Chela Choraisa. Says Rashi, Kama Kaicha Yafa Lispoil Taira. Your Torah has such great strength. Why don't you channel it for something good? Because at the time Reish Lakish was actually abandoned. So Reish Lakish retorted and says, Shufrach Lanashe, your beauty is really for women. Which basically, again, he didn't have a beard, so he looked to have apparently more feminine features. So Amalei hadrusbach, if you do tshuva and start learning Torah, I'll introduce you to my sister to marry her, and she's even more beautiful than me. So Kabbaleh, so he's makabel, in fact, to marry her. So so he wanted to return to go back to get his clothes. But he wasn't able to. So, and the idea behind this is that he lost his physical strength because now it was being channeled for spirituality. Akri v'asni v'shavi gavarava, so he kept learning Torah, Chumash, Mishnah, etc. And he ended up becoming a big Talmud Chacham, as we know. Reish Lakish is constantly quoted, but it's interesting when you know the context of the story. You understand it was Rabbi Yochanan, then Reish Lakish. Even though they argue a lot with one another, the truth is Rabbi Yochanan was certainly, in certain levels, greater, as we'll see. Yom Echad, one day, have a miflagei b'midrasha. There was a discussion, a machlokus there, based on the following piece. It said hasayif, a sakin, regarding a sword, a knife, vaha pigyoin, and a hunting spear, vaha roimach, umagol yad, a sickle, umagol kotzer for harvesting, mi'umasai, mikabun tomo. So when do these weapons, if you will, a lot of them are, when do they become susceptible to tomos? So he said, Mishas Gemar Malachtan, from the time that you finish making them, which is usually how it is. Once the craftsman finishes the kli, so then it becomes royal kabel tomo. Umeyamasei Gemar Malachtan, when is that? So Rav Yochanan Aimer Mishi, it's sarfeim bekivshon, when it's finished and fired up in the oven. Reish Lakish says, no, it's Mishi, it's sach sachem b'mayim, and when you polish them with liquid, with water. So Amalei Rav Yochanan, who didn't wish to argue, this is how the Marsha explains it. It was more of a compliment. But he said, "Lista b'listiuse yada." A bandit knows the crafts of his tools. So basically, Rav Yochanan was saying, "I know you were a thief, so you understand this much better than I do." But it doesn't mean, even though we're going to see Reish Lakish felt bad about it, but the truth is, maybe all he was just trying to say is, I know my place. Your life experiences, even though that may be for criminal activity, but you could still use that knowledge for something positive. That's really what he was meaning. So Amalei Maya honestly says, what is this whole benefit of me hanging out over here, being called a teacher? Hassam Rabbi Karli, Hacha Rabbi Karli. The bandits used to call me the leader, and now I'm being called a leader here. Like, what's the difference? I might as well go back to be calling a bandit. So Rabbi Yochanan said, there's a benefit for you being here, because you're close to Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's not just about what you're being called, it's who's calling you these things, and also why are you being called this, for something good or for something bad. So Rav Yochanan felt bad about this whole matter of this conversation, and that's, as we've seen in many places, you don't want to get Rav Yochanan's upset. And therefore, Reish Lakish actually got sick because of it. So his sister came, again, Rav Yochanan's, this was the wife, the sister of Rav Yochanan, who was Reish Lakish's wife, came. Kabachi, and she was crying, do this for the sake of my children. So he said to her, that this pasuk is referring to becoming a widow, and this is a pasuk Rashi says in Yomi, of course, this is before Torah, or it just says on the side, do it for the sake of my widow. So Amalei, he said, so he said, for the sake of my children, right, that my husband should be okay. So Azvi Yisaymecha Niechia, that you forsake your orphan, I will live. So Asi B'Shvil Amunosi, my widow. So Amalei V'Almasecha Olai Tiftachu. Nachnashni Reish Rav Shimon Lakish. So he ended up taka dying. V'Havi Kamasar Rav Yochanan Basrei Tuva. Rav Yochanan actually felt very bad about the entire situation, that he died, and of course he was very close to him. This was, so Rashi says, Mischaret al Shemisaso Shohayamitzi Talmud Vasik Kamaisu, that Rabbi Yochanan never found a Talmud as great as Reish Lakish, so it was devastating loss. So Amar Rabbanan, Man Lezel Lisma Vidaite, who's going to maybe make him feel better? Rabbi Yochanan. Lezel, Rabbi Lezer ben Padas. So he went. Demechadadin Shmaise, because he was very sharp in the sugyas. Azli Yosef Kamei, Kol Mils, he sat by him. Kol Milsa the Havi Amar Rabbi Yochanan, everything that Rabbi Yochanan said, Amalei Tanya de Messiah, I have something that supports you. However, At Kvar Lakisha, you already Lakisha, which is referring to Reish Lakish, Bar Lakisha, Ki Havi Amina Mil. So I would say something to him, Havi Mashi Li Esther Arba Kushiyasa. He would ask me 24 questions. And Mafrakinale Esther Arba Piruki, and I would give 24 answers. Then I ended up becoming smarter because he challenged me. All you're doing is supporting me. Sometimes greatness doesn't come when everyone just agrees. It's when there's some controversy, or there's discussion, there's dialogue, there's back and forth. That's how you grow. So you supporting me doesn't help. Atu what? The shopper kamina. You don't think I know what I'm saying? I'm saying good pshatim. Havi ka'azl v'kar money. He tore his garments. V'kabach, he started crying. V'amar heicha'at bar lakisha, heicha'at bar lakisha. Where are you, my great bar reish lakish, my bar lakisha? V'havi kotzavach ad deshav daite. And he literally kept crying until he became a shtickle, like a shaita. He was just not himself, Rabbi Yochanan. Daite minei. It was so devastating, the loss of Reish Lakish, that Rabbi Yochanan couldn't bear to continue. That's how close he was to him. And they actually had Rachmanis and said, Hashem, maybe the best thing we could do for Rabbi Yochanan is that his life should be taken at this point. Pei Dalad Amid Beis. V'afil hachi lo samach Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Shimon adaite. Said, even though all this took place, Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Shimon was not confident in all the different sveikos. Going back again, what happened was that he was a person who was finding out people who were thieves, and then he would report them to the government. Even though maybe he was correct, sometimes he wasn't sure, and he felt bad about it. Kabbalah Yisuri. Because he was unsure about whether or not he in fact was correct or not, therefore because of that, he accepted Yisurim upon himself. This is going to eventually be TB 11. So it says, this is on Daf Pei Dalad Beis. Madua Bikesh Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Shimon Shiavo of Yisurin. Why does he want Yisurin? This is what I wrote. Sheish Chash Shu Davar Shel Kahoigen L'Lokach Ganavim. They took thieves. Yisrael V'Gam Ula Yesh Sveikos V'Hut Sadik V'Rasha V'Shvil Zeh Lo. Can't read my writing. Shum Chayos B'Yamehem V'Loi Mesim Shlo B'Zmana B'Schusim Shel Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Shimon. Okay, all right. So the point is that he was unsure of whether or not what he did was correct, and therefore he wasn't samech das on this. As Rashi says, Shemachata be'echem min tzadikim. Maybe he actually caused a problem. B'orta, therefore, at night, havi ma'chale shitin namte. He was actually like hit with 60 pieces of felt, which basically means he was in pain. Well, Sarf in the morning, nagdi matute shitin mishichle dama v'kiva. And he would have these 60 bowls filled with blood from his popped boils. The idea is that he was in so much pain that he had all these vessels that would catch his blood. Says Rashi, shezavu menu mishchin, that the boils and the liquid that oozed out of his boils filled up these bowls. L'machar avdalei, the besu shisin mini lifta v'achlahu ubari. So then the next day, his wife would prepare him some food. Rashi says mini meichel shoisim hateinim. It's made from figs, and that made him healthy, felt better. But his wife didn't leave him. She was concerned that maybe it would be problems if he was encountered by the Rabbanan, so she didn't really want him to leave the house. But Orta Amrlahu, at the night, he said to them, Achai v'rei boy, let the Isurim come, no problem. However, I want to be able to learn Torah constantly in my house, and therefore for Bittul Torah purposes, allow the Yisurim to dissipate, at least during the day. Yom Echad, Shama de Beso, Amrule, he heard his wife, Atka Maisluchu Iluch Kalisa Mamain Shel Beis Abba. He says, bring it on you, that was spent up of the money in my father's house. Imrada, it was, says Rashi, Kalisa Mamain Maichel V'Rivka Begadim Imrada Azula Beis Nasha Saliku. The also Hanach Shisin Sa Ponoi, so it was these 60 sailors. Ailile Shitin Avdin had 60 slaves. Kinakiti Shitin Arniki with these 60 purses. The Avdule Shisin Mini Lifta, V'Achalahu, and they prepared these 60 dishes of food, of fig. V'Achalahu, and they ate them. Yom Echad Amrullah. One day they said to her, "Brata zili baki bavuch." They said, "Go." This is Amrullah. The wife said to the daughter, "Baki bavuch, bidki bavuch. Go and check your father. Mahu oisa. What does he do?" So he wanted to make sure that he was okay. So Maika Ovid Ha'idna, what's happening today? Asa Amrullah. So he said, "Zili Amrullah imech. Go and tell your mother." Shalanu gadol mishagadol shalanu, that your wealth, or actually says oisher gadol mishalhem, is even greater than them. Karinashi haisa kanyai seicher bemerchak tavi lachma. Just like the merchant ship provides bread. Says Rashi al Torah nemar. This is actually referring to Torah study. 2b. Al Ezem Meyer. What exactly happened? We quote this pasuk. Kishenasnu loy yarda hayam dairain, that when the sailors gave a gift, al shenitzlu b'schusai, that they were saved in his schus, nichshel shebiyam, from some type of drowning in the sea. So again, there was the potential that this was going to happen, and therefore they were rewarded. Achel v'shasi said they ate and drank. Ubari nafik l'beimid rasha. Went to the base medrash. Shaisa kamei shitin mini dama, and there went out 60 mini dama of damnida to harinu, and they were considered to be purified. It says Rashi, shirohu lo hanashim liros. He wanted the women to see im damnidahu, im dam taharhu, and he said that they were tahar, and therefore they can go back to their husbands. They don't need to feel or anything. So Havika, the Rabbanan were talking about this, V'yamri, and they said, Safadaitach leisbuhu chad safik. Is it possible that there's not even one suffix with this guy? Armahu im kamaisihu yukulam zacharim. If it's like me, then let all their children be boys. V'im lav tehidekeva achas menehem. If I was wrong with any of the psak that I said, then let one of them be a girl. And hayukulam zacharim. Says Rashi, is Abru Kulan Hawaii Zacharim. That night they all conceived, and eventually we saw they all were boys. V'yasikul Rabbi Lezer al Shmei, and they ended up naming their children after Rabbi Lezer Reb Shimon. Tanya Omer Rebbe Kalma Pir Rebbe Abitla Rishah Zum Yisrael. See how much Puravu was nullified because of the wicked government. Says Rashi, Rishah Zum Malchus HaRasha. Sheminach to typhus ganavim, because there were thieves. Lobo lebeis medrash tamid laharasol hanashim as dalman. So women wouldn't go to the base medrash, according to this pshat, to be able to ascertain whether or not they were tahar or tameh. Ki havi kanicha navshe, when Rabbi Elazar Rav Shimon was about to die, so he said to his wife, Yadana bin Rabbanan durasich elai. I know the Rabbanan are still upset with me. Shapir, and they're not going to deal with my remains properly. They're not going to be proper eulogy. Therefore, oignin bi'iliasi. Let me stay up, and when I die, just keep me up in the attic. V'lo tidchalin minoi, and do not be concerned. Do not be afraid of my body there. Omara, or my corpse. Omar of Shmuel bar Nachmani ishtayili ime. The Rav Yonasan. it was told to me by the mother of Rabbi Yonasan, the Ishtayah, the base of Rabbi Shimon, loy pachis metamnit sari v'loy tvei me'esen u'treid shnin. That it was somewhere between the ballpark of 18 and 22 years that after Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar died, Rav Shimon ben Elazar died, that he his remains were still. Why am I saying his name wrong? Reb Shimon. Okay, Reb Shimon. Right. Of course, his father's name was Shimon bar Yochai, so it's Reb ben Shimon. That he was in the attic for that extended amount of time, possibly between 18 and 22 years. Kihavi Salikna me yananale bimzage, when she would go and comb his hair, Kihavi mishtamta benisamine havi osti dama. If any hair ever fell out of his head, then there would be blood that came out, which means that his body was not decomposing. Yom Echad, one day, Chazoi Richasha, she saw a worm, the Kanafik Me'unye, that came out of his ear, which is problematic because maybe his body is decomposing. Cholosh Daite, so she felt bad. Ischazele Bechelma, so Rabbi Shimon appeared to his wife in a dream, Armeli. Lo midihu, this is nothing. Don't worry about it, because Yom Chad Shemay Bezilus Nesumah Rabbanan. There's one time that someone was disrespectful to a rabbi. Lo machi kideboyli, and I didn't protest like I should have, and that's the reason why my body was punished like this. But other than that, I'm fine. Kihabu, my body will not decompose. Kihabu asu beitrei ladina, when two people would come to court, they would come to actually his house. Habi kaima ababa, they would be like close to the attic. Omer Mar Milsa, Umar Milsa, each one would say their psak. Nafik kol mi'alise, and a voice would come from the attic. Yomer ish ploniata chayev, ish ploniata zakai. So actually, apparently, Rabbi Shimon somehow up in the attic